There have been 17 collisions at the intersection of Highway 286 and 62 since 2023, 8 of which involved injuries, 2 involved deaths, and in 2025 alone, there have been 6 collisions with 1 death resulting from Sunday's incident. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has taken the lead on this case, and behind me here is the active crime scene. You cannot get past that TBI car. Now, the public affairs officer for TBI, Kim Wheeler, tells me that she can't give us any details on the cause of death, as that is part of the active investigation. But that being said, she can say that this is a homicide investigation. County's total being covered. Local 184's Brian Courtney tells me participating union offices are already accepting donations. The Cabinet for Health and Family Services reports 17,306 families use SNAP benefits across those counties. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump tomorrow in Washington, D.C. Their meeting will come just days after Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin met in Anchorage, Alaska, in hopes of a breakthrough in Russia's war in Ukraine. The IDOT construction engineer Ben Wills tells me there were just a few other fixes that needed to change on the bridge. They had to replace those joints, which help open up the concrete. Now, I want you to take a look at this traffic. This is leading up to the I-24 bridge, and a part of that is because there's only one lane open during construction, but that should only last for about another 3 or 4 weeks. That's what Will says, and then that second lane will open up. Yeah, Adam, obviously a big Region 7 matchup here. You had an undefeated South Fulton coming in. Now, this was a game that Lake County had circled on their schedule. They knew this was going to be a big one, looking for 3 in a row, looking for 5 out of their last 6, which they did tonight. And guess how many players they brought tonight? 18. If you looked over at the sidelines, you only saw 18 players. And I talked with head coach after the game, Hunter Short, and he was telling me people have been counting them out, but tonight they showed exactly why you shouldn't do that. The holidays are right around the corner, literally around the corner, as in the Capitol Christmas tree. Every year, a tree is cut from a national forest as Christmas gets closer, and so does the tree toward Washington, D.C. And it will be making a stop right here in downtown Paducah next Friday. Todd, the ministry themselves did not come up with a number. However, Commissioner Eddie Jones tells me he got in contact with PCM's architect, and he estimated that it would cost in total just under $200,000. As you can see, I am now walking to the courtroom. Judge Executive Craig Clymer says that although this wasn't officially on the agenda, it will likely be discussed. And Murray Police Chief Sam Beard says your digital footprint makes it incredibly difficult to get away with something like this. He helped track down a man in Wisconsin who called in a bomb threat to Murray High School back in 2021. And he tells me there is no hiding from investigators.
No matter how good you think you're covering your tracks, unless you're some sort of world-class cyber hacker, you're leaving a footprint.
Murray Police Chief Sam Beard says over the years, school threats have become more common. But with current investigative resources, justice is likely to be served.
If you have a call that originates from a spoofed number, well, you find that company and you start there, and then you just backtrack it till you can go back to the source.
Beard says all threats are treated the same, even if only a hoax, but that uncertainty can take a toll on parents.
You never know what a kid or another parent may do, and that's sad to say that's the world we live in.
Kaylee Lear is a parent of 2 Lake Road school students in Obion County. She says moving forward is difficult, even if there wasn't an active threat.
I'm still not sure as if I will send my kids to school tomorrow. You know, just because you never know. I am extremely nervous that, you know, this may happen or whatever the threat was may be acted out at a later date.
Beard says the majority of threats come from social media. He urges parents to check in on their child's online activity to stay safe.
I think it's a great thing when parents take their kids' phones and go through them and be snoopy. You know, that's exactly what we need to do.
A sentiment that Lear agrees with.
It's our job to protect our children, you know, and that's why you have to have parental blocks and, you know, things like that in place so they can't be exposed to things that they should not be exposed to.
Chief Beard says all threats are treated as real and will result in a felony charge. The Mayfield Middle School threat in September ended with an 11-year-old student facing second-degree terroristic threatening. I am no meteorologist, but the Callaway County football field just saw an EF5 tornado, and the craziest part, it was blue. We saw touchdowns on offense. We saw touchdowns on defense. Now, speaking to a couple of players, they say that they did a great job bouncing back after their loss to Madisonville earlier in the season due to their teamwork.
You know, we faced some hardships through that week, but, you know, as a unit and a group, we stepped up and made some big plays.
We came together, and they weren't
with us working hard and putting in that work.
And speaking with head coach Sean Thompson, he says there's still some things the team needs to work on heading into the playoffs.
Just being consistent in everything we do. We want them playing for each other and not playing for themselves. We've had opportunities this year where we've been split, whether it's individually or offense, defense, and whatnot. But just definitely playing together and playing for each other.
And next week, the Blue Tornado will be back at home when they take on Christian County. Reporting in Callaway County, Drayton Charlton-Perrin, WPSD, Local 6. Incredibly open to the public. I asked him about not appearing for public town hall meetings and opting for events you have to pay to get in, like this one, after protesters posed the question to me.
He repeatedly refused to hold a town hall.
I have a lot of demands about welcoming more people to his table.
He's only speaking to the people that he knows are going to pay him money.
These protesters believe Congressman James Comer isn't giving them a voice. Leslie McColgan, co-leader of Four Rivers Indivisible, wants the people to be heard.
We want Medicaid, rural hospitals, health care, SNAP benefits. For him to not be willing to answer questions about those things and just write it off as Trump derangement syndrome is ridiculous.
Comer acknowledges these concerns, but believes McColgan and the other protesters aren't being fair.
I wouldn't even cover them if I was in the media because they're just really saying things that aren't true. I mean, our staff's met with them, and again, I know what their position is. I don't agree with their position.
One protester who served overseas in Iraq says Comer isn't considering veteran issues.
He is everything that Trump says. He'll say one thing about the veterans and then he uses them. And he's taken benefits away from them.
My dad's a Vietnam veteran, and we've got 2 new VA clinics going up in the state right now. My caseworker's probably in the office in Monroe County right now working on some VA issues for our constituents.
I would love for him to come and to speak with us and to talk to us about why he's not speaking with the people and why he's only speaking with those that can afford a $900 seat.
I do more interviews than anybody in Congress. And we post our interviews on social media. There's nobody in Congress that does more interviews. Not Hakeem Jeffries, not Mike Johnson. Nobody does more interviews than I do.
Yeah, I was sitting in my car trying to put together highlights for the football game, and all of a sudden I just heard this pop. And I look up, there's kids running. I didn't see a gun. I didn't see who shot it. I thought for a second that maybe it was just a firecracker. Speaking with some other people who witnessed the event, they also said that maybe it was just a firecracker. But then all of a sudden the KSP car rolls in. They start taping things off. As you can see in the back here, there's tons of officers. The sheriff then confirmed that one person was injured. And now I just see tons of police cars out here. People seem to be pretty shaken up about this. This was supposed to be just a fun night of football. It was the opening game of the season, and it turned into this. I really don't have too much more for you. It seems like a mess. Live in Mayfield, Drayton Charlton-Perrin, WPSD, Local 6. As last night was week 7 of Gridiron Glory, and next week fall break arrives for nearly every school in West Kentucky, which brings a much-needed week off. But before those teams could turn their attention to the bye week, several of them with some really important games last night. A lot of district showdowns, one of which taking place in Princeton as the Caldwell County Tigers took on Mayfield. And a nice crowd on hand to see which team would take the upper hand in the district race. Both the Tigers and third-ranked Mayfield coming into the night sitting at 5-1 records on the season. The Cardinals with the upper hand as of late in the series, 12 straight wins dating back to 2013. Early first quarter, no score. Gray, Robbins to Mac Hoover, the touchdown. Mayfield going to take a 7-0 lead early. On that next possession for Mayfield, Robbins going to go deep in the bucket for Malik Kirby, 45 yards for the touchdown. Mayfield up 14-0, but they're just getting started. Back in the red zone, Robbins to Will Morris goes in for the touchdown, now 21-0. Here is the second quarter. Robbins again looking deep. Mac Hoover, he's got a couple of Division I offers. He's going to score a touchdown there. Mayfield, a 52-0 win. Thank you, Mike, and a great first show together. Look forward to continuing that. And thank you all for watching Local 6 Saturday. Make sure to join us back here tonight for WPSD Local 6 at 6.